Hey, everybody. Welcome to Odd and Untold, the podcast where we talk about all things strange and spooky. And this week, we're going to be focusing a little bit more on the strange aspect of some things, but I'll get into that in a few moments. Before I get started, I just wanted to draw your attention again to our intro music. If you're new here, if you're not new here, what you just heard was a song called Moonlight by a band called Riversend, and it is a duo comprised of my two friends, Zach and Olivia. And I actually had them on the show last week. So if you are new here, or if you just missed last week's show, if you're a regular viewer and listener and missed last week's show, go back and take a listen to that. The Haunting Music of Riversend. I talked to Zach and Olivia about their music, and we talk about some spooky ghost stories as well, because a lot of their music has these sort of spiritual, supernatural, ethereal themes, and very cool songs, very talented duo. They do all the music themselves, so check it out. Olivia's got a great voice. Zach is just multifaceted, multi-talented with the guitar and laying down backing tracks and recording and mixing down, and their stuff is just top notch. So go back and listen to that episode if you haven't missed it yet, because that song is awesome. Moonlight. I love that song. So thanks, Zach and Olivia, for being on the show last week. Thank you for letting me use that song as my intro. And I guess we'll get on to the show for now. So as I said, we're going to talk about the strange today. And I wanted to talk about this concept of a glitch in the matrix. And you hear people talk about this a lot. And it's sort of a phrase that came out right after like the Matrix movie came out with Keanu Reeves. And it's basically just a catch-all phrase for just weird things that happen that aren't necessarily paranormal. It's not necessarily a ghost or UFO or cryptid. It's just weird things that happen to us in life. And we've all probably had this. And again, there's no real definitive definition of what a glitch in the matrix is. And I'm going to read some stories from Reddit, some user stories that just demonstrate some weird things that happen that, like I said, aren't necessarily paranormal or supernatural. It's just almost like we're living in a computer simulation and there was a glitch. So there might be a duplicate item, there might be a duplicate person, there might be something that seems like something from a parallel dimension or an alternate dimension that kind of bleeds through into our realm a little bit. And we can get into that with UFOs and Bigfoot, and are they interdimensional? Are they extraterrestrial? Are they just unknown animals? But I'm not going to go down that route today. I just want to kind of keep this to just sort of everyday things that happen. And I've given an example of this once before. I believe it was on the episode, The Haunted Guest Room, and I will link to that in the description below. But I had John, my buddy John, on the show, and we were talking about some weird stuff that happened to me at my place in Brooklyn. And when we were in high school, we had the long hair. We were like metalheads, and we had the long hair. And as such, we'd always carry like a brush with us, to brush our long, luxurious hair. And there was one time I had lost my brush. It was this brown hairbrush. I used to keep it in my back pocket, and I lost it. And it was just gone for months. And one day we were just sitting on my stoop, and it was late at night, and there was like this pedestal up on the stoop, cement column, and then there was like a flat cement thing on top of it, and a flagpole sort of embedded in the cement there. So it was a cool little platform. We'd put stuff up there sometimes, drinks or whatever. And like I said, months after I had lost this brush, like we're sitting there, and I get up, and the brush is just sitting on the platform. And at the time, the other episode we were talking about, like, was it paranormal? But it does seem to be like this almost glitch in the matrix. Like maybe I had put it there months ago, and this matrix or this computer program that we're living in or whatever alternate dimension, it slipped into an alternate dimension and then came back into this dimension. So just a weird thing. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. There's nothing necessarily paranormal or supernatural about that. Like, I don't know why a ghost would take a brush that I had lost and hold on to it for months and then put it back on this pedestal, on this platform, for me to find months later. It's just weird, but it's like one of those glitches in the matrix. So I'm going to read some stories here, and as I read them, you'll start seeing what I'm talking about. There's really no one criteria for a glitch in the matrix. It's really just weird things. So you're going to see things here with people being in places they shouldn't be, or items duplicating themselves, and people having weird dreams, almost like premonitions. So there's a lot of this like sort of overlap with other uh, unexplained phenomenon, but I don't want to delve too much into that because that's just a huge rabbit hole. We can just get distracted for days with all that. So let me pull up these stories and I will start reading some of the more interesting ones that I found. Okay, so I'm going to start here. Again, this is a subreddit, and it's just titled Reddit Tell Me Your Glitch in the Matrix Stories. I'm talking weird occurrences, coincidences you haven't been able to easily explain. I'll start. So this person, super unhappy fun time, writes, we have a breakfast laid out at work every morning, just a simple buffet of eggs, bacon, and what have you. Nothing huge, and it's really only to feed about a dozen people or so. I'm usually one of the first guys from my team to get to work, and the kitchen was deserted as usual. I walked into the kitchen. There was a ceramic egg tray thing with 12 eggs in it, like the bottom half of an egg carton with a socket for each egg. All spaces are filled with warm, freshly boiled eggs. I take one, walk over to the garbage bin, shuck the shell, then I walk back over to the food and stop dead. There are 12 eggs in the tray again. No one entered the room while I was peeling the thing. I touched the mystery egg. It was the same temp as the other eggs around it. Not a big thing, nothing major, but something very strange. Given one does not get presented with strange eggs from a parallel universe every day, I peeled and ate that one too. So then the too long didn't read. Found strange quantum egg at breakfast. Ate it. Did not gain superpowers. So this is kind of what I'm talking about, like a very subtle thing, something that he may not have noticed. You know, he could have taken this egg and then walked to his desk, and the next person who came in would have seen 12 eggs there. So just a very subtle thing that may have gone unnoticed, but because he was the only one in there, he kind of saw like this egg came back. And again, it's a subtle thing, but when you're by yourself and you're eating an egg, there were 12 eggs and you ate them, and there should be an empty little egg socket, and then there's another egg there and it's warm and no one else was in the room with you. I'm assuming this is a small room or kitchen that this food is in, and you would typically know if someone else came in and took an egg, they'd probably say good morning and you'd hear them. So very strange, but this is an example of that where it kind of like duplicates itself, or it's almost like he went back in time, like he ate the egg and then he turned around and went back in time to before he ate that original egg. So just very, very unusual stuff. But this is kind of what the glitch in the matrix stuff is about. And it fascinates me because, again, it is subtle. It is, again, it could be easily just attributed to tricks of the mind, tricks of the eye. And we'll get into some of those stories where, it could just be something else. And I'll try to read some of those, but very interesting. So let me move on to a second story. So this one is weird. I mentioned dreams earlier, and this is from Sarah X11. And it says, this will probably get buried. When I was around 20, a few years ago, I kept having dreams about a woman with long black hair named Aurora, pronounced Aurora. They were different dreams, but for some reason, her distinct face and name always ended up in them. I got to the point where I would wake up frustrated and confused, trying to Google her name and find out how I was connected to her. After a few months, she stopped showing up, and I dismissed it, thinking my brain was just being a scumbag. Fast forward a few years later, Halloween 2009. I'm in the car with a friend, stopped at a gas station. I'm about to pull out and merge onto a highway when I get a phone call from a random number, so I stopped the car, but no one answered. There was a person behind me who grew impatient, honked at me, and then swerved in front of me instead of waiting for 2 seconds for me to move. Second they get on the highway, some silver Civic loses control of their wheel and crashes into the car that swerved in front of me. I called the cops and waited at the gas station for them to come. Turns out the drivers of both cars died. It 100% would have been me if I hadn't got that phone call. Called it back a few hours later out of gratitude and curiosity. Rang 3 times and went to voicemail. Hi, you've reached Aurora. Please leave your name and number. Never had goosebumps like that in my life. Called it again the next day because I was confused about the whole situation. Some woman answers. We get to talking. I tell her my entire story, including the dreams. She tells me she doesn't know how I got her number and that she never called me as far as she remembers. Weird. Ask her if she has a Facebook to confirm if she's in fact the woman in my dreams. Check her Facebook. Holy fuck, it's her. If that's not a glitch in the matrix, then I'm just batshit crazy. So here again, we have a dream, and some people would say this is psychic abilities, this is a premonition. Uh, but it is weird to have these dreams. And again, I'm taking these at face value. I don't know, people on Reddit, they could be just making stuff up. I don't know. I can't vouch for any of this, but I don't know why someone would type this all out just to mess with people. These people do seem sincere, most of them. And Aurora is a weird name. It's not like, Jennifer, or, just a normal, not normal, but Aurora is not the name you're going to just pull out of the air. The fact that he was dreaming about her face, that he dreamt repeatedly, and then he gets a phone call from her, that is weird. She has no record of it. She doesn't know how she got the number. Very weird. Very weird. So, and, things like that do happen where people will say, oh, that would have been me. If I had pulled out into traffic, if I didn't get that phone call, if I didn't get distracted for a second, if I didn't spill my coffee, that would have been me getting hit by the train or in the car crash or whatever. So very weird. And we'll move on to another story. Okay, so here's a story where it's like parallel dimension sort of thing, or alternate dimension, or overlapping timelines. And we see a lot of this in the superhero movies these days, The Flash and Marvel and Doctor Strange and all this, the multiverse, Spider-Man, so interesting story. This is from KillAllExtremists. This happened about 15 years ago. I called my friend up and he wasn't home, so I left a message on his answering machine. I said, "Hey, it's me, KillAllExtremist." I'm guessing he used his real name. "Sorry I missed you. Call you later. Bye." And then I hung up and left the house. I made no other calls. Later that day, he called back and he says, "Wow, that was quite a message you left. Who was that girl you were talking to?" I was like, "What are you talking about? I wasn't talking to any girl." Well, as it turns out, the message didn't end after I said bye. I had to go over to his house and listen to this message a few times. After my initial message that I did leave, as quoted above, there was a slight pause, and it continues on for another 30 to 40 seconds or so with me talking to some girl. It was my voice, but a conversation I never had with a girl whose voice I didn't recognize. You could compare it to the message I know I did leave, and the two voices were indistinguishable. So I guess he's saying it's definitely his voice. Not just the voice, but, talking mannerisms. It was my voice. Also, references to my occupation and activities were the same. Basically, in this conversation, I was talking to this girl about going skiing, but I had to go down to my shop and work on a car first, which totally correlated to me. Then the message just stopped. It was recorded on one of those digital answering machines that recorded the message to a chip, so there was no tape I could have taken and had analyzed, unfortunately. Also, neither I nor my friend had party lines, so that is not an explanation. It was very freaky. I can't explain it. Too long didn't read. I may have connected to an alternate universe through a telephone answering machine. So again, you have this proof, he can hear this message. His friend heard this message. There's a conversation going on. We can all recognize our own voice. We can all recognize our own personal details. But he's talking to a woman who he doesn't know, whose voice he doesn't recognize, having a conversation he says he never had. So again, skeptics will say this was an old conversation. This was maybe an overlap on the tape, but there's no tape. It was a chip. So even if there was overlap, you'd think he'd remember this girl's voice. He's leaving it on someone else's answering machine. It's not something that he recorded a long time ago. So yeah, is this alternate dimension? Is this a conversation from the future that hadn't happened yet, but got left on his friend's machine? Very strange. But here you kind of have that like multi-dimensional, who is he talking to? Is this a conversation from another dimension? Is this a conversation from the future? Is this a conversation from the past that just didn't happen in this timeline? Who knows? So very, very strange. Okay, so here's another one with some cars. This is from Mark of Shame. Driving home on a stormy day, I see that a side road up to the local golf course is blocked off by flashing barricades. I also spy a Mercedes parked past the barricades with its hazards on. I stop and walk up to the car to see if they need help. I'm an EMT. I shine my light in the back seat to see a man slumped over, apparently asleep. Thinking I've got a few drunks, I move up to the driver window and tap on the glass and shine my light in. The driver is sitting bolt upright, unmoving, staring straight ahead. My window wrapping or light doesn't cause him to blink, flinch, or move. I look over, and the passenger is slumped forward onto the dash. This begins to creep me out. I call down to the sheriff's station and request a code 2, which is a no light or sirens, unit up to my location to help me check them out. Doors are locked. While on the phone, I walk back to my truck to get my go bag. As I'm on the phone with dispatch, she asked me to get a license number for the car, and just as PG&E, power company, cherry picker truck comes rumbling down from up the closed road, I move to go around the truck to get the plate number, and the car is gone. I talked to the driver of the truck, and he said there was an 80-foot tree down across the road, and that he didn't think it'd be open for a day or so. So the question is, the hell did the car go? Tree up one way, barricades down the other. It's kept me a bit unsettled when stopping at accidents hazards since then. Edit. So he puts the intersection via Google Maps. He says the barricades were 5 feet in front of the camera and the tree was up around the distant bend. So this is one where the car could have driven off, but it seems to have disappeared. And just the thing with the driver is interesting because we do hear this a lot in these glitch in the matrix stories where somebody will be like frozen. Their eyes will be open, but they won't be blinking. They won't be responsive. It's almost like they're stuck, a glitch, it's like they're glitching out, like they're stuck. And so could this car have driven off? Of course, but it does seem to be improbable, not impossible, but improbable. One, this guy probably would have heard it. He's an EMT. He's worried about these people. He's probably going to be trying to focus on them. If the car drove off, he probably would have heard it. Two, it doesn't seem like he went very far. He didn't go half a mile down the road and then come back. And, and then there's this cherry picker coming, and the cherry picker doesn't seem to have known where the car went either. So where did this car go? Was it ever there? Again, was this a hallucination? Is the information here not entirely accurate? Who knows? But again, creepy to come across a car like this where people are just seemingly out of it and glitching out, and then you turn around for a second and you go back and the car's gone. So very strange. So here's a story, this next one, about sort of people being in places they shouldn't be. And there's going to be some more of these stories. But they're very interesting to me because I've kind of had this happen to me as well. And I don't usually mention it because it's just one of those things where I've always attributed to a trick of my mind. But let me read this story. This is from KLSI832. This happened to me in 3rd grade, and it scared me so much I started crying and had to go to the office to talk to the principal about it. I was in the hallway for misbehaving, and my neighbor, Tad, a year younger than me, came walking out of a class to my right, passed in front of me, and headed down some stairs. We said hi to each other. About 20 seconds later, he walked out of the same class, passed in front of me, and headed down the stairs. I just stared at him, confused and afraid, and he looked back like, "Why the F are you looking at me like that?" I never realized how much it was like that Matrix deja vu. So yeah, you have almost this repeat, almost like a videotape, like skipping and repeating itself. So the kid comes out, walks past him, goes down the stairs, and then 20 seconds later, the kid comes out again, walks past him, and goes down the stairs. Very strange. And then he has another story. So edit. I thought of a second example of this, and as long as this thread is so popular, I may as well share it. A few years after this incident, my sister and I were hanging in the living room watching TV. We both saw our mom walk through the other room and through the adjacent hall. Maybe 20 minutes later, she came in from the backyard. My sister and I looked at each other confused and asked her how she got back outside. She didn't know what we were talking about. She had been outside for hours. No one else was home, of course. So this is weird, to see people where they're not supposed to be. And again, this happened to me, and I basically don't mention it. I don't talk about it. I don't consider it anything because I was a kid. I was young. But this did sort of happen to me one time where I was laying in bed and I could see out the door. This is my very first apartment, and I could see out the door of my bedroom. And out of the corner of my eye, I see my mother go into the bathroom, and she had this like purple sweater at the time with a pattern on the front. And so I see her walk into the bathroom, and I couldn't sleep. So I was like, "Oh, let me get up and go talk to her." So I get up, and as I come out of my room, now off to the left she's sitting in the recliner watching TV, and she's wearing she had like this blue button up, kind of like denim shirt. And she was just sitting in the chair. And I was like, I just saw you walk into the bathroom. I mean, you were wearing your purple sweater. And she was like, no, I've been sitting here the whole time. And again, it small apartment. We lived in Brooklyn. It was a small, 2-bedroom apartment. And I clearly saw her walk into the bathroom, and there was a wall there. So she kind of just went behind the wall. But as I walk out of my bedroom now, all the way over to the left in the corner, she's just sitting in the chair. There's no way, again, like I had a clear view from my bedroom towards the hallway where the bathroom was. Like I would have seen her come out of the bathroom. And again, she was wearing a completely different shirt. So again, I was a kid. I was probably 6, 7. So I kind of throw it out because maybe I was just a kid who was tired. Maybe I was just seeing things. But you hear stories like this, and it does make you wonder. So who knows? So let me move on. Okay, so here's another story where there's a person where they shouldn't be. So kind of maybe a duplicate or a copy or an overlap in dimensions. Make up your mind as you will. But this is from, looks like a deleted profile, but at a friend's place back in 2008. When we were all teenagers, we had a cool shed at a friend's that we'd hang out in every weekend. It had 4 sets of bunk beds, tables, a fireplace, TV, fridge, etc., the whole lot. One night, we were all hanging out in there when I decided I needed a piss. I walked out the front door of the shed and started to walk to the right when I stopped. Now, let me explain the layout here. As you walk out of the shed, his house is to the left, and to the right is where we all parked our cars. Further out, you're left with empty fields and trees. It was dark by now, the lights from the house illuminating the space between the house and our cars, but trailing off just past them. As I took a step to the right, intending to go behind the cars to relieve myself, I saw my friend's older brother standing there. I watched him for a good 5 to 10 seconds as he stood there facing into the darkness. He then proceeded to walk behind a couple of trees and a car before he disappeared. Confused, I walked back into the shed and asked my friend what his brother was doing by the cars. The conversation went as follows. Me: hey man, what's your brother doing by the cars? Him: what do you mean? Me: he just walked off behind the cars. The brother: I'm right here. I looked over, and there his brother was, sitting down on one of the chairs with a drink. He was wearing the exact same clothes as I saw him in, and the only way to get into the shed was through the door that I was standing in the way of. To this day, I have no idea how it all happened. I'm guessing I was just seeing things, but the fact that I watched him walk around for a good 10 seconds has always puzzled me. I've never heard anything else like that happen. So again, here you have, and I appreciate the guy saying like, oh, maybe I was just seeing things. And that's why I kind of discount my story, because my story, I kind of saw my mother go, but it was like a split second sort of thing. Like I just kind of caught like a glimmer of her shirt as she walked into the bathroom. So I kind of throw that out as not a glitch in the matrix, probably just me being tired and seeing things. But this guy's seen a guy for like 10 seconds, and 10 seconds doesn't seem like a long time. But if you time yourself, like you're staring at something for 10 seconds, that's not your eyes or your brain playing a trick on you. That's like you're seeing something. And he wasn't scared. He's not assuming like, oh, this is a doppelganger or a double or a glitch in the matrix. He's just like, oh, so-and-so's brother's over there. I wonder what he's doing. And you're watching, and you count 10 seconds, and then the guy wanders off. You're going to be like, where did he go? I mean, let me go back inside and see if these guys know. And then he's sitting there. Very weird. Very, very, very strange. So another one where there's just a person there who shouldn't be there, or a double. So here's a short one, and this is just weird. And I've heard kind of stories about this before, and actually a couple episodes back for our Halloween special, my guest Lori sort of talked about this, where her and her daughter had like the same dream, and they were each themselves in the dream. So go back and listen to that episode if you want to hear her story. But it's her and her daughter had a dream about her husband who had passed away when her daughter was way too young to even remember him. So it was just weird, but there were very specific details in that dream that they shouldn't have been able to share, but they did. So let me read this one. This is from Emotive Bubble. It's short. I think the strangest glitch I found was back when I was in high school. I was talking to a friend on the phone, describing a dream I had about an ice skating rink. And then he starts to describe the rest of the dream to me from the opposite point of view. It was a while ago, so I don't remember everything, but we both described the scenery, what the people were doing, etc. It freaked me out when it happened. So again, skeptics are going to say this is just coincidence. This is just, two guys who know each other very well, probably go to the same places. But it's weird to me that you have these two people not having the same dream, not having similar dreams. It's the same dream from their own perspectives. So it's not like, oh, I had a dream I was shot by the Terminator. And oh, yeah, I also had a dream I was shot by the Terminator. That's like, all right, maybe you're watching the Terminator too much. But to have this dream where he's himself and the other guy is himself and they're kind of describing the same dream from different points of view, that is interesting to me. So weird. So a lot of dream stuff here too. So and then this person jumps in and they kind of have a similar thing. Not sure if this relates, but about 2 years into my relationship with my girlfriend, we'll call her Susan, I had a dream about my ex. Dream went like this. I was in my room at my mother's house where I lived at the time, slamming my ex. All right, balls to the wall, sexing it up. It was a little dirty, sorry. I knew I was cheating on Susan, but I didn't care. So in the middle of it, I look over to the window, which you can see the back porch from, and Susan is there watching us, crying and mortified. I then woke up. I thought it was a weird dream, but dismissed it. A few days go by, and Susan and I are hanging out in my room. She brings up this weird dream she had a few days prior and describes my exact dream, except from her point of view, looking through the window. Freaked me the fuck out. Didn't say anything about it at the time. Still haven't said anything 5 or 6 years later. It still weirds me out. So again, you have this like shared dream from different points of view. Like they're seeing it through their eyes. So very, very weird that people are sharing dreams. And again, people can say this is psychic, this is shared brains, this is empathy. I don't know, but trying to just stick with in the matrix here, glitch in the matrix. So it's very strange. So here's another one with a mysterious phone call. These happen a lot too. And again, you hear a lot of these in like paranormal stories. The phone will ring and it shouldn't be ringing, or it's a phone call from someone who shouldn't be making the phone call. So this is, again, from a deleted user. I used to work in a building that had 3 levels of sub-basements with the piece of lab equipment I typically work on in the lowest basement. I had the only key. There was a wired phone in there, and I did work late some nights, but not this night. I was sleeping alone in my apartment when I woke up to a call on my cell phone from my girlfriend at 3 a.m. She was in hysterics and asked why I scared her. Apparently, she received a call from that basement phone just a minute earlier with someone who sounded like me slowly repeating her name until crackling and fading out. My apartment was 10 miles away from work. I thought she was lying, but I saw the 3 a.m. call from the basement phone logged on her cell myself. Still freaks me the fuck out. So this one could have been somebody else at the job just hitting redial, or just recognizing this guy's girlfriend's number and just being a pervert. So I don't know. This one doesn't creep me out as much. It doesn't impress me as much because, again, it could have just been a prank call. But you do keep getting these phone call ones. So very interesting. So now we have this funny one here. I was just looking at this and I had to read this. So somebody's being an internet troll. So he writes, this one time at work, I was responsible for making boiled eggs. This guy came in and ate one. He was so intent on peeling his hard-boiled egg that he didn't notice that I brought in a new tray of eggs and set the older ones aside to make egg salad. So clearly trolling the original story here. But I just thought, you're on Reddit, you're on the internet, you're going to get these trolls coming in. So not every story on here is a winner, but I just, not even clever, but just, I just think it's funny that people have to do these things and kind of take the piss out of other people's stories. Funny. So this one's interesting. Again, I've talked about like the doubles. So let me read this one. This is from Naimaz. Ever since I was a kid, I have what I call doubling occasionally happen around me. I put something in a pocket, then later find it in another pocket, as well as the original in the pocket I had put it in. And yes, it has happened to money before, score. The most standout example was when I was a teen at camp. All the leaders had engraved plastic name tags, and we were only issued one. I used to keep moving mine between my hat and my shirt. At the end of camp, I just crammed all my stuff in a duffel and headed home. Later, when I unpacked, the first thing I do is pull out my hat with the tag on it. Okay, so that's where I had it last. And of course, a minute later, I pull out a shirt with the same name tag pinned to it. I also experienced a similar phenomenon when I was a kid. For a few years, it happened on a daily basis, but I haven't seen it in a long time. Someone would place something in their pocket/backpack, etc., but when they went to grab it later, it would be missing. I would then reach into my pocket, backpack, whatever, and pull the item out. I initially got accused of being a thief, but when it happened repeatedly when I hadn't even been within 20 feet of the victim, my friends and classmates stopped doing so and just kind of accepted that it would happen around me. Too long didn't read. I'm a quantum counterfeiter / pickpocket. So that's weird. If you're only issued one name tag, how do you end up with two? And again, it's possible that maybe they gave him two. Duplicates do happen. Mistakes do happen. The thing from when he was a kid, again, I tend to not always give kids the 100% believability. Their perceptions can be a little skewed. Again, I interview children for a living. This is what I do. And I know that they can get confused easily. They can misremember things. They can remember things in the wrong order. They forget things a lot. They lie a lot. So a lot of that could be going on here. But the doubling is weird. When you see two people, or, if you have something physically that you're only given one of, how do you now have two of them? It's weird. And again, maybe he was just given two. I don't know. But that's what these glitch in the matrix things are. It's like when you shouldn't have two of these, and now you have two. So very strange. So this one is a weird one. I'm going to read this one. I don't know what to make of this one, but I'll let you guys decide. This is from Glass Jailer. I can't explain this, and I hardly believe it myself. I've only ever told a couple of people, all of whom refused to believe it could happen. On 2 occasions, I've breathed underwater with no mechanical assistance. I was about 11 when it first happened. I was swimming one afternoon in the diving well at my gym. The pool is about 14 feet deep with a fairly small surface area. I've always been a strong and confident swimmer and love to dive to the bottom of the pool and flip over, open my eyes, and look up at the surface. So I dive down, and sitting against the wall, I have the overwhelming urge to breathe in. I refuse this thought, disbelieving and scoffing at my brain's sheer strangeness. But the thought comes again, and it is utterly convincing. I can't explain why I decided to breathe in. I just know that I wouldn't ever choose to do that, but in this instance, I did. I took the most careful, mincing breath in. I could feel great pressure, but I breathed normally. It was air I breathed and not water. I took 4 full breaths while sitting at the bottom of the pool, and after each breath, I became more horrified and agitated. My disbelief was outstanding. I kind of freaked and shot to the surface as quick as I could. After I rationalized a bit, I calmed down. My logical mind kept thinking that somehow I had a bubble of air caught on my face, for how else could I have breathed in like that? But over the years of trying to make sense of it, 30 years old now, I recognize that air always finds its way to the surface expediently. It won't just catch around someone's face. I tried to do it again that day, diving and diving, trying to replicate the experience, got quite a bit of water up my nose before I gave up. It did happen a second time, same pool 4 years later. I took 5 breaths, same feeling of overwhelming confidence that it would be okay to breathe. Couldn't explain it the second time either. Very strange. Glitch. I don't know. No one has ever believed me, but I've only ever mentioned it to a select few. I still can't figure it out. Does anyone have any physics, logic, thoughts on this? Has this happened to anyone else? So this is weird. Don't know what to make of this. I don't blame people for not believing him. It just sounds really bizarre. But it's also a strange thing to invent or lie about and just say, yeah, I breathed underwater twice. I mean, he could be lying. But, it could be a glitch in the matrix. We're supposed to breathe water. We're not supposed to breathe water. We're supposed to breathe air, but maybe there was air and that's what happened. I don't know. Glitch in the matrix. All right, so I'm picking this one because this one kind of spoke to me as well. And it's a story I don't really tell much, but I will tell it after this. So this is from Squirrely. 2 years ago, edit 3 years, I had a dream that a meteor ripped through most of my house and my neighbor's house. It reminded me of something out of a war movie when a bomb goes off and my roommate and I are disoriented and semi-deaf as we walk around the fire and rubble screaming and looking for roommates and neighbors. It felt very real and painful and was horrific. I woke up really shaken and told my roommate about it in the morning. About 3 hours later, my whole house starts rumbling and we hear the sound of like a turbine engine powering down directly over my house, followed by 2 huge explosions. We run outside and there is billowing black smoke. We run around the block to the houses on the other side and see 2 houses completely ripped through by a fighter jet. The houses were completely destroyed and what was still standing was on fire. We tried walking around and yelling to see if anyone was in the houses. It was then when my roommate reminded me of my dream. I like to say coincidence because I don't believe that, but I still can't explain it. Too long didn't read. Dreamt a meteor ripped through mine and neighbor's house. Same day, fighter jet rips through houses behind me. So again, people might say this is premonition, this is psychic abilities. I don't know. But again, this one resonated with me because in the months before 9/11, I had a couple of dreams that were not very visual. They were just auditory. And I would just hear jet engines getting louder and louder and louder, like coming right at me, and then an explosion. And then I'd wake up. And this happened a couple of times, like in June and July. And then, maybe even in August. And then in September, September 11th, 9/11 happened. And it just, at the time, I didn't give much credence to the dreams, but I remember watching videos of the planes crashing and just hearing those turbines and then the explosion. And it just reminded me of those dreams. And again, could be total coincidence. And again, I don't mention it much because I don't know what to make of it. Is it a premonition? Is it a glitch in the matrix? Was I hearing something that didn't happen yet? Why was I hearing it? I don't know. I never worked in the World Trade Center. Didn't even work near there. So just strange that, again, people have these dreams, almost auditory, or, like with this, it's that same sort of something from the sky ripped through the houses and made sound, bomb going off. And then that same day it happened. And for me, it was like in the preceding months, it happened a couple of times in the preceding months. I remember it was just like through the summer, and then, 9/11 happened. So very strange. Okay. So here's another one, just, person where they shouldn't be. This is from Shepherd Downs Norris. All right, pretty sure this will get buried, but I always wanted to share this story. So my family and I moved when I was in third grade. Before we moved, my parents brought me and my siblings on a road trip to introduce us to our future house. It was owned by this nice old man who did a lot of self-repair over the years. We still find little oddities every now and then, undoubtedly left by him. I walked inside, waved at a kind-looking old lady in a rocking chair, walked around, and then we left. Nothing odd, except for one small detail. As we left the house, I was a little confused. But Mom, I asked, I thought you said the owner of the house lived by himself. Who was the old lady? My mom gave me a three-headed look. What old lady? My family agreed with her. There wasn't an old lady sitting in the living room, and the owner's wife had died recently. Yeah, I have a couple of other weird stories about that house if anyone's interested. So, this one could be a ghost, if she passed away. This sounds like it could be a ghost, or it could be a glitch in the matrix. So who knows? But I think I'm going to end it there for today. My voice, I don't know if I'm getting sick again. I haven't been sick, but every now and then, I don't know if it's the weather, my voice starts crackling. So I'm going to end it there for today. But if you guys like this episode, I'll do more glitches in the matrix. I really do like these stories. They're just a little weird. I'll pull some more together. I'll do a part 2. But for today, I kind of have to wrap things up. I'm just getting a little tickle in my throat and don't want to keep talking if I don't have to. But we'll do another episode. In the meantime, go check out Riversend. They're awesome. All their links are in the description below, so you can find them. Go give them a like and a subscribe and follow them. They have a Spotify channel, so go listen to them there. They have 5 songs out now, all really cool songs, great stuff. So please go give them a listen, go give them a follow. For all the new subscribers here on YouTube, thank you. We're over 500 now. I appreciate all of you. More and more comments are coming in, so please keep leaving the comments. I like interacting with you guys. I love hearing your feedback. I love just sharing and swapping thoughts and opinions with you guys. It's awesome. So make sure you subscribe, ring the little, hit the little bell thing so you get notified when I post a new video. Usually every Tuesday, but sometimes I'll do a little bonus content here or there, so you don't want to miss that. If you're listening on audio, Apple or Spotify, please leave us a review. We love the reviews, and it definitely helps the channel. So just give us however many stars you think we deserve. You don't have to write anything out, but if you do want to write something out, we'd appreciate that if you took the time and just, again, gave us some feedback about the show, what you like, what you didn't like. Again, all I ask is that you be respectful. I'm open to constructive criticism, but as long as it's respectful, that's great. I have co-hosts on here. I don't want those guys being disrespected. So I'm going to cut it off there for this week, guys. Hope everybody's having an awesome week. Go listen to River Send, and I'm going to do a part 2 of this because I really do like this and I wanted to do more today, but I hate to cut it short. But in the meantime, until next week, everybody, rock and roll.